Hi everyone, so this week the Parkes telescope solved the nearly 2-decade-old mystery. The origin of the moon may have finally been solved, and the Brontosaurus dinosaur may have come back from extinction. This is your weekly science news with me, the UKAstroNut. The scientists at the Parkes radio telescope may have solved a mystery that's been puzzling them for nearly 2 decades now. Since 1998, scientists have been seeing these strange radio signals. Now they're strange because they look like radio signals from objects all across the universe, but actually these signals seem to come from within our own atmosphere. They seem to come at very irregular occurrences, and since 1998 they come in fits and starts, and sometimes you go a few on one day and sometimes you'll go months without seeing any of them. This is what makes them really unusual. It's also strange because they seem to only come on working weekdays, Monday to Friday, and only in the hours while people are working at the telescope. Now it's taken nearly 2 decades, but scientists finally found out what the source of these radio signals were. And in fact, it was the microwave oven within the Parkes radio telescope kitchen. See, what happens is when people open the microwave slightly too early, some of the radio waves from the microwave were getting out, and the telescope at a certain angle was able to see these radio waves coming from the microwave oven. So as people were heating up their food for lunchtime, the radio telescope was detecting the radiation from these microwaves oven, which is really rather unbelievable, but really interesting as well, because it's been puzzling them for several years, so it's really good that they finally solved what this mystery was. So another mystery has been solved this week, and it's to do with how the moon has formed. Now for some time we've had this idea that the moon formed in 2 protoplanets, 2 really young planets, one of them Earth and one of them another planet, smashed into each other billions of years ago. And as they smashed into each other and passed across, a lot of the material from both the planets would have been spewed off and it started orbiting around the Earth. And eventually this sort of debris disk, this material from the 2 collided planets, would form together and come together, and that's how we think our moon formed. This seemed like a really good idea, and we did simulations, and this does seem how the moon formed. However, there's always been one problem. When we've taken samples from the surface of the moon, it turns out that the material on the moon is very, very similar to Earth. In fact, it's almost identical. Now, you'd expect this because it was the Earth, the material from the Earth, smashed into the other planet that formed the moon. However, some of the material also came from the other planet. So what we would expect is to see some of the material on the moon that came from the Earth and some of the material that came from this other planet. But this isn't what we see. We see all the material that seems like it came from the Earth. But now scientists actually think the way they could get around this is if both the planets are very, very similar. So if both the Earth and this other planet that's smashed into each other were very similar in what they're made of, then the material from the moon would look like it was just made like from the material from Earth, because both these planets are almost exactly the same. And this is what scientists think could happen. And this has been a long mystery for some time as to wondering how this could be the case, but actually it now seems like this problem is now fixed, and so we can probably count this mystery solved. So this week, the Brontosaurus, the dinosaur, may have come back from extinction. Okay, so it's not how it sounds. In fact, it's just the name. You see, in 1903, scientists decided that Brontosaurus wasn't the correct name for the dinosaur, and so that type of dinosaur, which you can see a picture up here, should be pronounced Apatosaurus. This is the name for that dinosaur. And it all starts several hundreds of years ago. And scientists found 2 skeletons of dinosaurs. And they found that they're very slightly different, but they look relatively the same. And they named one of them Apatosaurus and one of them Brontosaurus. And they assumed they were 2 different types of dinosaur. However, in the following years, a lot of people found skeletons that were somewhere intermediate between the 2 different skeletons. And so they assumed that actually these 2 skeletons were from the same dinosaur. So they said we shouldn't keep using the word Brontosaurus to define and describe these type of dinosaurs, but we should start using Apatosaurus, and this was the correct one. However, it now seems that statistical analysis of these 2 skeletons show they're actually very, very different, that of the Apatosaurus and that of the Brontosaurus. This suggests they are 2 different types of dinosaur. And so it seems this week we may now start being able to use the name of the dinosaur Brontosaurus again. And we can also use Apatosaurus at the same time. This is really good because most people have been using Brontosaurus for the name of this dinosaur anyway, because it's kind of a colloquialism, it's what people refer to. Brontosaurus means thunder lizard and it sounds a really good name. Rather, Apatosaurus isn't quite as interesting. So there you have it, that's your weekly science news. You now know how the moon formed, and you now know you can start using the name Brontosaurus again. Don't forget to like, subscribe to my videos. You can leave a comment down here. Tell me about what you thought about these news stories, or tell me about some news stories I might have missed this week in science. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys all soon. One of the biggest scientific discoveries in the last few years was that of the Higgs boson. and it was discovered at the Large Hadron Collider, a massive particle collider underneath the ground in Switzerland. But soon after the discovery, the Large Hadron Collider was turned off to be upgraded. Today it was turned back on again for the first time, and particles were sent around the Large Hadron Collider. So what can we expect for the new Large Hadron Collider since its upgrade?